Greetings, Internet. Welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This is going to be the start of my series playlist of, well, let me bring up the box. Fields of Fire. And I'm going to be doing the Normandy campaign. And obviously, when you start a campaign, you've got to do mission 1, which is what I intend to do. Now, this has been the first episode. I'm going to be doing the setup of the first mission, going through, and I'm going to go quite into the weeds on how you actually set up and plan to do the mission. And I hope to complete the first turn in this particular episode. And then going forward, maybe 2 or 3 turns per episode until mission 1 is done. And then judging from you guys, feedback, you want me to continue, not continue, let me know if I want to go to mission 2 up through to mission 7. There are 7 missions in total for the Normandy campaign. Now, with regards to this game, there is a lot in the box. I mean, it's a fairly deep box, and it's full to the rim. In fact, so much full that I've had to have a separate box for the counters once they're punched and such forth. Now, yes, I know I'm going to be playing this on the screen, and I've played it on the screen using Vassal, and I've played it on the screen using Tabletop Simulator. Both excellent modules and ways to play. I mean, yes, as many of you know, I prefer to play it with the real cards out and such forth, but space limitations, I can't do that. So I thought for this, I'm going to give Tabletop Simulator, which I've been using, I've been learning the game as well, and I'm going to be using Tabletop Simulator, which is the first time I've actually brought it to my channel. So I'm not sure how it's going to be. It's going to be choppy or anything once it's recorded. Without the recording facilities, it works perfectly. But let's go and see. Now, if you've got this game sitting on your shelf and you haven't done anything with it, especially with the new deluxe edition, don't break into the campaign straight away. No. They have provided in the box this. Okay, the Rifle Company Infantry Regiment book, which is a part 1 basic platoon and company training. And what I can say this is essential. It gets you basically how to play the game. I have not gone through a better playthrough, examples of play, and instruction manual on how to play on this. Now, the previous iterations, I had the 2nd edition. I gave up on the 2nd edition, never had the first. The 2nd edition, the rules were opaque, difficult to find things and such forth, and I gave up on them. I actually got rid of my 2nd edition and wasn't actually going to get 3rd or the deluxe, whichever you want to say to it. But watching a few videos on it, I decided to get it, and I haven't looked back. And following what is advised in the book, do this first. Usually on a game, playthrough like Fire in the Lake, I went, nah. I started playing the game, and that was fine. And then the playbook helped after the effect. This is essential before. You cannot run a company through the game without going through how to move a platoon through the game. And then learning the rules gradually. It really is, in my mind, essential. Once you've done, and there are little scenarios in here, it will teach you how to go through certain things, and then it will add additional instructions and say, right, you've done the first 4 turns, now continue, finish this, or restart it again and then do it. So you're learning as you play. Once you've done that, then the next thing to do is another booklet, and there are lots of these booklets in the box. This one is a standalone mission, and you basically play this mission again as an example as you're going through, so you can play through that and then continue, or you can start it again and do it. And we'll keep up the fire. And again, I would say this is essential before you delve deeply into running the company itself. You're running the company yourself in this, actually, but in the proper campaign. So, yeah, do this next after you've done the playthrough book. Then you can delve into one of the 3 campaigns that's in the box. There's Normandy, there's Korea, and there's Vietnam. I started with Normandy, and I picked up the subsequent mini campaign module, which is the Battle of the Bulge, which I'll probably do next after I'll finish Normandy. And subsequently, I've got another campaign on the go of Normandy where I'm up to mission 4. I've done the first 3, mission 4, and I thought, right, I want to bring this to the channel. And I was thought, do I bring it from 4 or redo 1? And I thought I'll redo 1. And the main reason why I did that is it will be completely different. Yes, the forces are going to be the same. My company, the German enemy, but where the German enemy is located on the map or cards is going to be different, and it's going to be different every time you play it. So because the cards generate random terrain, so the terrain is different, and where the enemy is going to locate is different. So it's a completely different setup and scenario or mission. I mean, you could play mission 1 50 times and it will be different every time. So I thought, well, why not start at the beginning of the campaign, and then I can go through it, and hopefully with a bit of confidence of what I'm doing. Because yes, you're constantly learning in this game, and thankfully the rule book, which is absolutely gorgeous, just showing you in there, it's beautifully laid out. There is an index, everything is in there. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of digging, find what you need, but it's rare. And yes, I am still asking questions as I'm playing, but the questions are getting less. Will I make mistakes? Guarantee it. Absolutely guarantee I'll be making a mistake in this. But they're not going to be catastrophic mistakes. So if you see any, please make a comment, because that's the way I will learn, and others who want to play this game will learn too. So yeah, do not hesitate to make a comment. Oh, you didn't do this, right? Please do. But again, the mistakes are not going to be devastating to the actual play. Well, hopefully not. And then once I've done mission 1 and gone through the details, obviously I'll lighten up on the rules expo, because there are plenty of other videos out there which go into detail the rules, but I want to go through how I set up, why I've set up the way, the plan, etc., and hopefully, as I say, complete the first game turn. So yeah, so if you could hit the like, if you like what I do on these videos in general, I'll be asking you at the end of the module as well. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't done so already. But as I've said already, please hit the comments if you've got something to say, and just say hi anyway. So let's go down to the board, the table, because it's Tabletop Simulator, and let's have a look what's going on. Okay, so this is what Tabletop Simulator looks like when you load it up. And this is me after setting up the basics of the Normandy campaign, mission 1. So what is mission 1? Well, it's set in, just bringing up the book, June the 8th to June the 10th, 1944, which is a tour. Now I'm going to bastardize this. Trevieres offensive. Now, as you can see, there are sets of cards here, and this here is what's called the staging area. This is the terrain, and this terrain was randomly drawn from this deck over here, 42 Normandy deck cards. So what you do is you shuffle these cards up and lay them out according to the actual plan that's in the book. And it says that this is random terrain for those 3 rows, and they are known, i.e. they're not unrevealed. So let's zoom in on what we've actually got out there. Okay. So we've got some farms, gullies, villages, farms, and so on. But the further we go, now I'm going to call it north from now on, because it just feels like north. So further north, we have gullies, villages, orchards, hedgerows. Now, this one here is a hill. Okay, so what was drawn was randomly was drawn as a hill, and then another card's placed it. So it's an open field on top of a hill. Okay, so it's the only elevated ground that's on this board. Now, on these cards, there's quite a bit of information. So you got a nice little picture of the terrain, and notice these green borders. Okay, but some of them are white. Okay. So this, for example, is a gully. There's a green border on the north and south side, but the east and west side, there is white. That means a line of sight can be traced through that border, whereas that border, a solid green line, blocks line of sight. So line of sight is automatic if you're adjacent in 90% of cases, but if you're not adjacent, it's blocked by a solid green line. And notice it also goes to the corner. When it comes to tracing line of sight, you trace along straight lines and diagonal lines. So, for example, a unit in this village here can see the 5 surrounding cards. It can then, if this was clear sight here, i.e. white, it could see over to this card here. As this one is clear, if there was a card over here, it could see. Well, actually, no, that's blocked there. Sorry, my bad. If it had been white in that corner, they'd be able to see. You know, it's open ground. It's pretty much white all through. So if it's been open ground here, you'd be able to see to this non-card at here at the present moment. And that's the thing. If you notice, there's these little guys. They've got a left boundary, a right boundary, and a limit of advance boundary. Okay. Oh yeah, that's the nice thing about this. I can bring the cards up by just there we go in detail, and the counters just hold on to them. One of the nice things about Tabletop Simulator. So my units will be starting in the staging area, but the limit of my advance is as far as I can go for this particular mission. And I can't go beyond the right boundary or the left boundary, because these represent there'll be another company doing an attack over here, and another one doing an attack over here. And so we don't cross into each other's fire paths. We can't attack each other effectively. However, the enemy doesn't follow our company guidelines. So the enemy could appear in terrain off the board here and here and here. And cards will be set up accordingly and drawn accordingly when that happens. So we don't know what terrain is off here, off this side here or here. But if say I've got a unit here that reveals an enemy that could be located over here, a card will be placed and then determined lines of sight and such forth. Being on the hill or the elevated terrain here, the enemy will have line of sight over these green boundaries. So a unit here on the hilltop can see down to this card here, and across to here and down to here. It still can't see like a knight moves, for example. It couldn't see this card. Okay, so that's the cards, or the terrain. Now, what actually information do we have on the card? So let me bring up a card in detail. So, okay, you can see various numbers dotted around there. Nice little picture, as I say, describing what the card is. It's a farm. The big +2 there is its effect on fire in the card and upon the card. It adds +2 to the combat result. Low numbers for combat results are the ideal. So +2 is good terrain. The slow means slow means, yeah, okay, right. The slow means if a vehicle moves into there, it must stop. That's as far as it goes. The numbers at the bottom, that big 3, well, say big, less than 2, but the 3 there means that when you're looking for cover within the card, you draw 3 cards to determine if there's cover in there. And the one inside a building shows that the cover that you find is a building, but there's only one lot of cover within that card. So if that cover has been found, then someone else can't search for cover within that card. I was going to say hex there because effectively that's what they are. These are hexes in that regard. So that's that one. Now, if we look at the gully here, notice again it's got now the word no there. Vehicles cannot enter that card. The +2 +1. Okay, so the +2 applies if it's been targeted through those green boundaries. The +1 applies if it's been targeted through the white or by artillery incoming artillery. Okay, put the name gully draw. Again, you can use 3 cards to search for cover, and then you've got one lot of cover within that particular card. Now, what the cover does adds to that +2 or +1 that's been applied. Let's have a look at the village. Okay, so within the village, slow, you can move through it. +3 terrain modifier. Looking for cover, you would draw 4 cards, and there's potentially 3 lots of cover within there, which are buildings. So there we go. What you would expect in a village. Back to the farm, slow, blah, blah. So that's the same. Hedgerows, slow. Again, it's got a little 2 now for terrain, so that would be just basic standard cover. Bushes, hedgerows, etc. Not a building. Orchard, now that's got that little -1 on it for shell bursts. They're a bit more vulnerable to off-board artillery. So they get +1 terrain, -1 for the shell burst. Again, there's 2 lots of cover within there. Another village, and the values on these village, that's got 4/3, 4 cards drawn, 3 terrain in there, could be different. There are different types of villages and such forth. Another gully draw, I think that's got 3/1. What did the other gully have? No, it was 3/1 as well. Okay, 3/2 on that one. Woods, you got the shell burst problem. Lots of cover within the woods, but it's all basic cover, i.e. bushes, hedgerows, pine trees. Open fields, you might be able to fill, it's got, only draw 2 cards because there's less chance of finding cover, and there's only 1 lot of cover in there. Whatever that is, it could be a slight divot in the ground, etc. There's lots of open fields at the back there. So that's our basic map. And if, as I say, we need to draw anything else, we would draw it from the deck of cards here and place it wherever. So if I just drew 1 card and had to place a card there, I'll then flip it over, and it's now a hedgerow appeared there. If I want to, I can place that back, and then you can just shuffle the deck. There we go. All right, let's take it from there. This here is the action deck. This is what effectively is the game engine. Okay, whoops. So let me just draw a card and go through what these actually do. Right, there's lots of information on this, as you can see. Okay. So that big 3 in the helmet is command points. If you have been activated, so activated command points. The number below it, the black number, which has got a little star behind it, is the command points if you haven't been active. So you're working on your own initiative. So you've got various amount of command points. The outcome command, i.e. working on initiative, is lower than the command points is if you're being activated by a higher command. Then you've got directly below that the hit table. As you can notice, the lower the number, the better. You've got -4 as a hit, so on, all the way up to +6, which is a miss. We'll come through how that actually works when we get shot at, but that effectively is your hit table, and that is different on every card. Then you've got the large area to the right, which has at the present moment a pentangle, and it's got an anti-tank value of 4. I haven't really gone into tanks myself, so I'm not going to worry and explain about those. But where the pentangle is, that box has various bits of information. Let's just draw another card and see if it comes up with something different. There you go. So that's got a symbol in it of some guys moving around. That's an infiltration symbol. And below that, you've got a HQ radio. Those, when you draw in a phase called HQ event, it's a radio in that position, you have got a HQ event. If there isn't a radio in that position, you haven't got one. So there's a total of 50 cards. There's a certain amount of them have got the HQ event, and same with the Germans. Do they get a HQ event? Draw a card. If there's a radio there, they do. If there isn't, you don't. This one here, the infantry symbol, is infiltrate. If you decide you want to infiltrate from one card to another, and again, we'll go through the details of how to do that. You draw a card. If it's got that symbol on it, well, you draw a couple of cards actually, but depending on your quality, but you draw those cards. If any of them have got that infiltrate symbol on, the unit has managed to infiltrate the card. If none of them have it, then none of them you're not able to infiltrate. And it's the same with, let's draw another card. What we got on this one? Oh, artillery barrage comes in. You've got the word rally at the top. So if you were trying to rally a squad or a unit, and the word rally came up in however many cards you drew, the unit rallied. If the word rally didn't come up, the unit didn't rally. You get the point. Again, if you're calling in artillery, you draw a card. You see the other cards didn't have artillery symbols on. If they did, the artillery has come in. So whatever is in that box is when you're asking the system a question. Have I managed to rally? Have I managed to infiltrate? Is there any cover? Because the word cover will appear on a certain amount of these cards. Have I managed to concentrate fire? That's what the roundel does. Has a sniper found a target? And so on. You draw in cards to see the effect on the situation or the question that you're asking. And it's in that box. Below that box, you've got the hit effect. So if a hit is determined on your unit or the enemy's unit, you draw an additional card, and depending on the quality of the unit that's suffering the hit will determine the effect of the fire. So you've got on that line, it says vet line and green. So if I was targeting, say, a veteran German unit, I'd of course an L result on that unit. L means it's gone to a litter team. There are P for paralyze, C for casualty, the guy's taken out, L for litter team, F for fire team, and so on. Again, we'll go into detail. So if you're firing on a German green unit, they would be paralyzed. Well, one step with the unit would be paralyzed. So if it was a 3-step unit, and we'll go through the units soon, one of the steps would be paralyzed, the other two would be still okay. And then below that is the random number generator. If any of you have ever played up front, it works almost identical to that. If none of you haven't played it, I better go through. So that first number is how many cards or what card position number you're looking at. So, for example, if I had a random number between 1 and 10, I'd look under the white 10, and it would tell me what number I've randomly drawn, which is a 9. If I was looking for a random number of 5, it would look under the 5 column, the white 5. It tells me it's whatever it is, 5. So under the 2, you'll only have ever a 1 or a 2. Under the 3, you'll have a 1, 2, or 3, a 4, 1, 2, 4, etc. Okay. Let me just draw another card, see if there's anything different on that one. Not really, and so on. Okay, it's only got one artillery barrage symbol. That's still what you're the 3 barrages if you're trying to bring in bigger artillery, and works as a 1-star, but it wouldn't work if you're trying to bring Italian. But notice the results here. The worst result on this card is a pin. So whereas the other one had hits quite through. So, and the casualty line, you've got CF, so it's actually hurt 2 units. 1 step would be casualty, 1 step would be F, which turns into a fire team. If there was only 1 step in the enemy target, they always take the first result. Okay, and the results are all right. In this particular card, they're the same for the veteran line or green, but they can be different. And also look at those random number draws, lots of 1s and lots of 2s. So, and yeah, there are a total of 51 cards in this deck, 50 with actually these values and a reshuffle on it. And you do whenever the reshuffles cards drawn, you finish whatever action you're doing, and then you reshuffle the deck. So, yeah. Okay, so that's the cards. Again, I'll go in more detail when we're doing certain things. Right, what are we actually trying to do in this mission? So in the actual book, you get the campaign book. It tells me that it's an offensive, there are 10 turns, and it's daylight. It tells me what to draw on the map. And I have got a reattempt. If I fail the mission, I have 1 attempt to reattempt it to continue. If I fail on the reattempt, I'm basically fired. Okay, half victory. Okay, it then gives me the setup of the map, the line of departure, like the left boundary, the right boundary, and so on. It then says place a primary and secondary objective on the cards of your choice on row 3. So this is where, so this is row 3. So it's row 1, 2, and 3. I can set up what the objectives are for myself. So effectively, in the battalion headquarters meeting before we began this offensive, they said, right, Captain Sibley, this is your area operations. We need you to get to that line of departure. You've got certain, you choose where your actual want you to be your objectives. So I've got a primary objective and a secondary objective. And to win the actual scenario, the mission, I've got to clear, I've got to secure the primary and secondary objective and clear rows 1 and 2. What do you mean by clear rows 1 and 2? Well, there we go. You notice you've got what word potential contacts. You got B's, or your A, B's, and C's. What that means is there's more chance of a contact on an A than there is on a B, than there is on a C. And so we've got A's in the middle row and B's up there. So it wants me to clear rows 1 and 2 of these potential contacts and enemies that might appear there. And I must secure, now it's keyword secure. That means I must have a unit of mine in the card, no enemy, so it's clear of enemy in the card as well. I can clear it. That gets rid of enemy in the card. And then to secure it, I must have a unit in there. Yeah, there's clear, secure, and such forth. So I want to place a primary and a secondary objective in this row, and I've got to clear the 2 rows before. I could clear all the cards, that's fine as well. But I've got to secure, that means have a unit in my primary and secondary objective. So let me set that up and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've placed the primary objective on the woods. Secondary objective I've placed in the orchards to its left. I want to avoid open fields as much as possible. And I've also placed what's called the attack position. It must be adjacent to either the primary or the secondary. In this case, it's adjacent to both. Okay. These are relevant because the attack position, because I can use signals to say go to the attack position. But we'll come into signals shortly. So I've got my objective 1 and my objective 2. Those are the 2 cards I must secure, and I've got to clear all 8 cards behind it. Now, what can happen with these potential contacts? There could be nothing there, or there could be something, and whatever appears from that contact not necessarily appears on that card. It could appear on a. You basically draw to see where the enemy appear, and this is why the mission is constantly redoable. The terrain will be different every time you do it, and where the enemy appear will be different. Okay, so that's my primary objective, my secondary objective, and my attack position placed. It then tells you what potential counters to be set up. They've already been done. And then it tells me what the enemy are doing. Okay, so the enemy are doing a called deliberate defense tactic. So that will, I've seen so far hasty defense, deliberate defense, and I've seen offensive. So it will be doing, and whichever one of those will determine how they hang around on the battlefield. What kind of they might, if deliberate defense, we'll probably have them dug in. Hasty defense, maybe not dug in as much. There might be foxholes, but you'll be unlikely to find bunkers and such forth. It then tells me their experience, and in this case, it's lines. You've got veteran, line, and green. So they are a line unit. And it tells me who they are. The historical enemy is the 352nd Division, 90th Brigade. So, and it tells me what units to use for their squad. That is the situation. Now, I could give you the historical blurb, but essentially, our troops have landed and have been put into the line. We didn't land on D-Day, we landed on D+1 on the 8th, and we have been put onto this area of the front to try and drive the enemy back, and it's our first actual combat with the enemy. It then tells me what additional attachments I've got, which is an artillery forward observer, and it tells me how much ammunition and missions he's actually got. Then there's two other pages in this booklet. Now, what I'm going to do is, so I've zoomed out. If you notice here, this is the actual campaign book. And again, if I alt on that, that brings it up quite nicely. And I can actually scroll through the pages. So let me just get to where we are, and that might make a bit more sense. All right. There we go. Okay, so there's the mission. Okay, the first thing I've just gone through. So where it says there, type, duration, visibility, that's everything I've just pretty much read off to you. It's got a nice little picture, and you've got the historical blurb there. So it says first battle with the German army. Okay, the next page, that showed me how the map was to be set up. Okay, the solid blue boxes there, it shows my line of departure, or as they call it here, the staging area. And then I've got 3 rows of random terrain, and it shows me where to place the counters, etc. Then below that, it tells me my artillery and support I've got. Drawing the next page. And this is really useful for when you are playing without the books. You don't need to bring out the whole game. I have, because I find obviously reading books easier. But say I was on holiday somewhere and had access to my computer and internet, I could still play this game using this module completely. It then tells me, remember I said about the little radio, and I've got the HQ event comes up. That's the table I would look at, and do a random draw. You notice on the columns it says 1 to 10, all the way down 9 to 10. I would draw a random number, whatever the number told me, would tell me what the HQ are saying to me, ranging from they want a situation report all the way through to an ammo resupply. And below that is the Germans options, which is evacuating casualties, moving their mortar teams, and so on. To the very worst one is counterattack. Yes, the enemy might start attacking you. Then the next page is the enemy force packages. So when we actually draw to see what contact we have, we look at the little box at the bottom, which is German contact packages. It will tell us what, depending on what the PCA, the enemy activation, A, B, or C, and that will then tell us. So if you notice, the C column has packages from 1 to 5, whereas the A column has packages 3, 5, and then up into the higher numbers. And then once we know what package we're looking for, we go to the top box, where then you've got the package numbers down the side, and it will tell us what package we actually have brought to the field. And then we go back to the unit placement box, which is to the left of the unit package, sorry, the right of the unit package, and it tells us which card and where we place the enemy package. So we use that to determine where the enemy is, and that's effectively all the information we have at scenario. So when it comes to placing stuff, I will use this. I mean, I've obviously got it here, which is easier for me to read. And I know it's not exactly blown up enough for you to read, but at least you can see where I'm getting the information from. Right, so the next thing I want to look at is my command display. This is, whereas the cards is the engine, this is my information sheet, my manual, effectively, of what I can do and can't do. On here, each of the HQs I've got, so I've got company HQ, effectively me, and I've got 3 platoons, which have their own little HQ command marker. I've got an XO, executive officer, and a first sergeant. When I draw a card to determine how many command points I have, I would move this counter down to wherever it appears. Okay. Also, I'd flip it over to show that he's actually activated. And I'll go into detail on that once and when we actually go through it. But that's effectively, and that tells me how many command points. And as I use things and activate things, that number will click down. This here is the turn track, which we know the scenario told us. And I'll use the word scenario and mission interchangeably. It's the same. This here will determine how many turns we've got. We've got a 10-turn limit. This here is the assets that each of my commanders have. And it also tells me that I'm green, as it is my first battle with the Germans. My XO is green. However, my sergeant is a veteran. He's obviously fought somewhere else and been sent over to join us to give us that little bit of guidance. Each of my platoons are green. Well, the officers are green. They also got radios. I'm going to probably change that to field telephones. I'll explain why when we come to it. But as I play, and then each of the squads attached to those platoons, if they've got any special equipment, such as rifle grenades, smoke canisters, etc. And then I've got my mortar section assets. I've got a little mortar section as well. We'll come through what our troops are when we bring them to the field. So this is where I control what I'm actually doing during each of the turns. Now, to the left of that, this here is my campaign sheet, where I update various informations and so forth. So let's have a little bit more detailed look at it. Yes, we can. Continue further. Right, so it's telling me I'm doing mission 1. This is my attempt 1. Remember, I'll get 1 reattempt if I don't succeed. Amount of turns. Experience gained. I'll come through experience when we're actually doing things. And then it tells me my status is green. My XO is green. My first sergeant is veteran. Then I've got my platoons, commanders, all green. But my actual troops are line quality. Okay. But if I bring any guys in replacements, guess what? They're green. So line quality, so I've got 3 squads, okay, for each platoon. I've got a 50 cal machine gun. I have got 2 30mm machine guns, and I've got 3 anti-tank, which are effectively bazooka teams. A mortar section. Now I've got 2 ways of using the mortar. I can have it split into sections, or I can keep it, well, it's called section. These are called mortar. I'll rephrase the term mortar teams, or I can keep it as a section. I'll probably keep it as a section because it's a bit more effective. Okay. And then have I got any other assets, which we know we've got some artillery showing up at the top there, my artillery observer in this mission. Okay. Down here is how I set up my flares and smoke that allow me to do certain commands. And I will set, once I do decide to set that up, I'll explain why and what I've done there. And again, this shows my artillery assets. So this will be updated at the end of the mission, ready to go forward into the next mission. These are various cards. And again, I can, by the way, I can alt on each of these and bring it up. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring over the information that's on the card, but as in the little counters that show in the line and such forth. But I can do a nice big zoom of it if necessary. Same with these. This is one, again, why I like the tabletop simulator. I've got all these cards and such forth, but it does allow me, as I've said, to play when I'm not with the box. And also, I can now show you in quite a bit of detail. Okay. So those are various cards we'll go through when necessary, and etc. This one here, though, the sequence of play. And I cannot stress enough, go through the sequence of play step by step. 90% of the problems I've had so far with the game have been because I haven't followed the sequence of play. Yeah, I know that. And then I missed something. Go through it step by step. Everything you need to know about how things happen and so forth can be pretty much answered by following the sequence of play exactly. Okay. Then you've got the action menus, and this is effectively the meat. You do actions, and we'll come to how the actions work when we come to do actions. All right, and then there's various other charts. And yeah, there's lots of charts and tables in this book, boys and girls. There's the enemy, and we'll go through those when and if, well, not when and if they arrive, because they will be arriving. So that's the table, and now we have our boys. Let's zoom in and have a look at them. Okay, there they are. We have our platoon HQ and his 3 squads. And so first platoon, second platoon, third platoon, company sergeant. And notice when I hover over the counter, it tells me he is a veteran. It tells me I'm green, these guys are green, and they're lined. So that's useful. The XO is green, I'm green. And then you've got the various bits of equipment. Now, also up here, we've got the regimental brigade commander, the battalion commander. These do not start on the board. We have other things like runners, mortar artillery. We do get a jeep. We get these anti-tank weapons and so forth. What I will do is move everything and then get them next to the board ready for setup. Okay, so what I've done is brought the counters over here. So these are the counters I'll be using in this particular mission. So again, there's me, XO and the sergeant, the 3 platoons. And what I've done also is, if I can bring it this way a little bit. There we go. I've color tinted the side. So that's first platoon, second platoon, third platoon. These are unattached to any of the actual, so they can be commanded by the XO, myself, and so forth. They cannot be commanded by the platoon commanders. I could attach this to the first platoon if I wanted to, and then he could command it, but I'd like to keep these, especially the artillery, independent. And the Jeep, I could have put the artillery officer in the Jeep, but looking at the terrain, I'd rather keep him out, and the Jeep can be used to bring up ammunition if necessary, or bring out casualties. So those are my platoons. So as you just saw with the board, I can make it straight flat on, or I can angle it to whatever I want to. I sort of prefer playing it at sort of just a slight angle like that, so I can see the slight tint of the actual counters. So that's my 3 platoons. So from that, I now need to devise a plan to actually take out or my objective. So I'm going to go with 2 forward, 1 in reserve. I'm going to have the first platoon and the second platoon as my forward platoons, and I'm going to have the third platoon in reserve to back up any sort of difficult situation we come to. I'm going to be primarily, by looks of it, driving down this side of the board here towards, and probably these 2. I'm going to probably stay. I've got to clear these, as we know, but I'm not going to be doing any major offensive down here until maybe later. That's the initial plan. So I want to get my first platoon and my second platoon ready to attack this area. So I'm going to set up and then go through what my actual counters are. Okay, so I've set up my units. So there is a stacking limit, and it's 16 steps now. What do I mean by steps? On our counters here, these little yellow dots denote steps. So there are 3 steps in this squad, 3 in that one, and so forth. The 1 dot means it's 1 step. And each of these, obviously, is 1 guy plus 2 staff or something like that. My mortar section. So I've set up the first platoon on this staging area. Your units, if they're in a staging area, cannot attack and cannot be attacked. So effectively, it's safe. So I can also determine how many steps I've got on there without clicking the dots. If I highlight everything and press that button, it tells me there are 13 friendly steps selected on that card. so I can keep track quite effectively. So first platoon, second platoon over this side, and third platoon, which is going to be my reserve over here. And you can see that's where I've set up effectively the company commander and each of the platoon commanders. And I've also got the first sergeant over here with first platoon and the company executive officer supporting second platoon. Artillery is moving up with second platoon as well. The only other counter I've placed is this one here, casualty collection point. So when I do start taking casualties, wounded and such forth, I want them brought back to here. I could have put it in the staging area, but let's be say I'm going to assume that I'm going to be having a bit of a firefight up here. I want to get them back as quickly as possible because someone's got to take them back, and that'll be guys out of the action. I've reshuffled the action deck. The other thing I've set up on here now, let me just zoom out. Zoom. Fire control. Right, zoom in. What I meant. Right. So I've filled this board up now with my pyrotechnics and other information. So I've attached to smoke to first platoon, first squad, a rifle grenade. I'm allowed a rifle grenade per platoon. So I've given it to the second squad in each of the platoons. I've also allowed 4 white phosphorus and 4 smoke grenades. So one of each to each platoon. And the actual XO has got some smoke. Sorry, the sergeant has got smoke and he's got WP. Okay. I've also, these are my pyrotechnics, which I've handed out, and I'll go through what they do in a moment. And then as I said, I am not using the radios. Now, the radios that, if I just flip this counter over here, so this 536 SCR radio, which is available in Normandy, is pretty poo. The guys can't use it if they're in cover. So your guys, your leaders have got to stand out in the open because they can't use it in cover. So useful. In fact, the only option you've got at night or in the night missions, which are upcoming, but they're not very good. I mean, if you're not being targeted by something, then fair enough. You guys doesn't need to be. They still get the general cover of the card. They just can't go into a cover counter, i.e. inside a building or anything like that. There are various ways of communicating, and when we get onto the actual board and start playing, I'll go through them. But I'm going to use field phones for this particular mission. Let me flip that back over. However, the battalion radio is a different one. The SCR 300 radio is a lot better, and that allows my company commander, him, to contact and be activated by the battalion. Unfortunately, I've only got one of them. All the other ones are the 536s. So everybody else is using, and he himself is using, so he's got the battalion radio to contact battalion or be contacted by battalion. And then when he's contacting his squad, he's using the field phones. Now, the actual field phone represents the line to it, as well as the phone itself. So if we've got 2 field phones in adjacent cards, there is a line between them. But if there's more than that kind of gap, I need these counters here, which are phone lines. And effectively, I'm going to give 1 to each platoon. I'm allowed 4 of these to go over extensive distances. And yes, phone lines are vulnerable to enemy fire, but hopefully, and so are radios and telephones, everything's vulnerable. But do I give it to the sergeant? No, I'll give it to the XO. Sergeant, I should imagine, will be having more in the front. So that's my equipment. Then on here now, I put down what my signals mean. So most of them is CF, which means ceasefire. Ceasefire is probably one of the most important orders you can give, because your guys, your squads, if they see an enemy and they can fire at him, they will fire. There's no, there's no stopping them. They will fire unless you've got guys or your own guys on that particular card as well. Then they won't. So when it actually comes to engaging the enemy, your units will engage without orders. So sometimes you want to stop them engaging to, one, conserve ammo, and two, when you want to move your own units onto that card, that's when you do a ceasefire. You can do it verbally, but I've also now given quite a few. You can see my smoke assets of different colors a ceasefire, and I've given each of my platoons one of those to stop the guys firing. Then I've given also orders that allow me this XPL2. Well, I mean, what does XPL2 means? Basically, move up to the phase line of 2, phase line 1, and M2 means move to the primary objective. What are phase lines? Well, we have line of departure, and I'm now allowed to place phase lines. So I'm going to put 2 phase lines down. I'm going to find the counters first. There we go. Phase line 1. I'm going to place it there. And phase line 2, I'm going to place there. In actual fact, no. I'm going to put phase line 1 there to get all phase line 2. And this basically means that if I fire that smoke and it can be seen, they will move over that phase line. So it allows me to bring the troops forward. And same with the phase line 2. Okay. And that is us ready to go. So let's begin. Mission 1, game turn 1. And we have the sequence of play here. This little cube, I can move this down on the sequence of play. So let's just zoom in on that. Now, again, I could do the Alt key, but you can't really read that. I mean, I can, but unless you're like an inch away from your screen, it's going to be a bit tricky. There's a lot of information on there. But, as I say, with the beauty of Zoom, I can go through it this way. So, we begin the friendly higher HQ event phase, starting on turn 2. So we don't have that. Let's get started. Moving the cube down into this area, defensive missions, enemy activity phase. We are not on a defensive mission, we're on an offensive mission. But if we were on a defensive mission, they would be going at this point. As it's an offensive mission, they go at this point. No, it's offensive missions, combat patrols, enemy activity phase. Okay, so let's continue down. So we get to the friendly command phase, which is the first thing we've got to do. So let's zoom right in. So during the segments of this phase, for a unit or HQ to receive an order, it must be in chain of command of the HQ or leader issuing the order and in communication with it. Okay. In this case, we are doing the orders to ourselves from battalion, and then through to the from me through to my staff, i.e. the XO, the sergeant, and the platoon leaders. So that's what I say. We're in communication. Now, we are in communication because nothing's told us we are not in communication. So the battalion are speaking to me. And that's what we do here in this one, activation segment. 3.31A Battalion HQ Impulse. So it has the rule reference. You can check it up in the rules. If the Battalion HQ is not on the map, which it isn't, activate the COHQ. Okay, because we're in communication, I can activate the COHQ. If the Battalion HQ is on the map, then you go through that sequence. I'm not going to go through that. And if the Battalion HQ is not available and in no runners on the map, move to the COHQ initiative impulse. Now, notice you have a COHQ impulse and so on, and then you have an initiative segment. We're not doing the initiative segment. It just tells us to go there if Battalion HQ is not available. He is, but he's not on the map, so I activate my company HQ, which is done if I zoom out and then move along. I think I'll show this briefly all the way over here. That basically, all that does is it flips him to there. He is now activated. And that's all we've done so far. Right, let's zoom back in. Okay. Now I could do that with pausing and such forth, but there we go. Right, so that's that whole segment done. We are now here, the COHQ impulse. If activated by the battalion HQ, he was, draw an action card and give it the modified number of activated commands. Then step 2 of that is save those commands or expend them and any saved commands on orders to itself or other units up to the maximum per turn according to the visibility and experience level as indicated on the command display. That's a lot of wordage. Let's go and explain what it actually means. So again, zoom out. Okay, and come back in. Not on that one. This one. Right, okay. So there's my COHQ, and I have this track here. Now, on this track, there are various bits of information. You've got maximums on here of where you can spend your command points. So, and you can save command points for future turns as well. So let's draw a card. And this is for my COHQ. He's under command, so he gets that number 4. All right. So he starts off with 4 commands available, but no, he doesn't. He gets a little bit more than that. If I can look on here, command limitations on this one. Right. Okay. Command draw modifiers. HQ or staff status. Is he pinned? No. Is he green? Unfortunately, he is. That's -1. Is he veteran? No. Undercover? No. They're in the staging area. And I looked at it. That's not undercover. So he's getting -1 at the moment. However, you've got then strongest VOF. What's VOF? Volume of fire affecting the HQ. So once we actually get fire on the board, if he's under volume of fire, that will detriment the amount of command points he's got. And the general conditions at the moment is it current activity is no contact. The answer is yes. That's +1. So he's got -1 for being green, +1 because we have no contact with the enemy so far. And that's denoted by this counter here. That will change as we get contact with the enemy. So he does stay 4 commands. And that's how many you can spend on doing various things. Now, also, he could save, maximum save green, normal visibility. You've got limited visibility, normal visibility. So he could save 3 of those commands to do next turn or the turn after and such forth, and they would accumulate. However, we want to get at least first platoon and second platoon active because they're going forward. And we want the XO and the first sergeant to do something. So we will actually get them activated as well. So that will use each one of these, as long as they're in communication, which they are, because we've got the field phone, they go, hello, hello. Activates them. And again, by activating them, I just flip them over. Third platoon, which is in reserve, they can work on their own initiative at this point. And that uses all of his commands. Or that moves into that box there to show they're finished, and then it's flipped over to show activation complete. If he had had any left, I'd have brought it down to this side of, you go up here when you're activated and down here once they're finished. So if he had 1 command left and then drew a 4 again next turn, he would be up here in the 5 box on that side. But he has none left, so he is done effectively for the turn. Okay, so as we have now activated those, I go to the next step in the sequence of play. Okay, now I know I'm going between the two here. I've actually got the sequence of play on the card here, and I'm using that, but I need to show you guys where we're at. So we've just done the company HQ impulse, and as I said, save those commands. We didn't save any or expend them, which we have, on orders to itself or other units to a maximum per turn according to the visibility and experience level, as indicated on the command display is what we've done. So now we come down to the next step, which is platoon and platoon HQ and company staff impulse. This is because they've been a select a platoon HQ or company staff that was activated by the company headquarters, draw an action card and give it the modified number of activated commands. So it's basically doing exactly what we did with the company commander. Save those commands, they can save them, or expend them, and any save commands on orders to itself or other units up to a maximum per turn according to the visibility and experience level. And it says repeat for the next platoon HQ. So you keep doing that for each of the platoons. And the order that you do those in is up to you. So let's actually have a look here. We have got first platoon, second platoon, XO, and first sergeant activated. I'm going to start with first platoon, and I'm going to draw a card for him. He gets 2 commands. So we bring him down here to the 2. And we know, going back on this example here, what card it was, that one, that one command limitation. Okay, command draw modifiers. He's green, -1. He's not undercover. And current activity level is no contacts, +1. So it stays as it was. All right, so he's got 2 commands. That's not a lot. All right, so what do we want to do with our first platoon? Well, we want to get onto this card here. And that will require an action. It's the first time now I'm talking about actions. There are various actions. In fact, there's 4 sheets of actions. And I'm not going to go through them in detail at this point. As I use an action, I will do it and explain what I'm doing. So what I want to do is send a unit into this area here, into the farm. I could action a whole squad to go forward. But if they get into a firefight, no, I don't really want to do that. So I want to send a fire team, a part of the squad. So I need to detach a fire team. Now, a platoon here, they are all on the same card in the same area. So that is visible and verbal communication that I'm using. I'm not using the telephone, don't need to. I'm on the same card as them and I'm in the same area. Now, if I was in the, say, on the farm doing this, and some guys were in the building and I was in the open in the farm area, then we would not be in visible verbal communication because we're in 2 different areas on the same card. But in this case, we are. So I want to give an order to one of these squads to detach a fire team. So where is our, here we go. All right, let's bring the zoom in here. And okay, I've got one of these player cards, there's all my actions on it. There it is, actions menu. All right, so we've got command control actions and we have combat actions on that side. And if we flip that card over, can we do that? Oh no, we've got to change the status on it. State 2, we have movement actions and rally actions. So there are 4 pages of actions. And as you can see, they range from the rally action, attempt to remove a pinned marker, movement actions, move to an adjacent card, and such forth. But let me just change the state back. State 1, boom. We want to first of all do a command action, which is we want to detach. Where do we? Yeah, I don't know exactly where all of these commands are instantaneously, but I've got the card in front of me. But we want to detach a team, and this is part of the rally actions. So let's follow what it's saying there. Right, it tells me the cost in command points. So it's going to cost me 1 command point to do this. Right, detach a team. Then it tells me, do I need to draw cards to do this? It says it's automatic. Do it. Next along is who can do it. Any HQ or staff member can do it. So the platoon HQ is doing it, but the XO or the sergeant could have done it. And then it says recipient, any good order. Now it can't be a pinned unit. Pinned unit is not good order. Any good order, 3 or 4 step squad or 2-step weapons team can be the recipient. And it says reduce the squad or weapon team by step and place either an assault or fire team into play on the card. Transfer any assets to the detached team as desired, and 2-step squads may not split into 2 teams with this action. So it just gives me a limitation on there. So we're going to do that as our first order for our first platoon. So let's move along, back to zoom out. Okay, and here we go. He's got an order. He's going to do it to this platoon here. sorry, this squad. I've got on here which says pull lat team, limited. I can't remember what the lat stands for, but anyway, this. And you can see it brought me an assault team. I could change that, but an assault team allows me to move onto a card to explore. A fire team can do as well, but not as effectively. So that's one command. Now, I could do this, mark it on here to show he's done it. One action, one command. I normally use a little dice sitting in front of me and count them down and come back to this display. But as we're showing what's going on, that's the first order. Now, I want to move that fire team onto this board here because I can only remove this potential contact with something on this card. Oh, and so I can attach any assets. Right. So the assets I want to attach to it was a third platoon, third squad of the platoon. They got smoke. I'm going to give the smoke to the assault team just in case we need to lay down some smoke. So there we go. He's now got that smoke. Okay. Next up is the second order. I need to move him forward. So going back to here, we've got movement actions. All right. And we've got move to an adjacent card. Cost of 1. Again, it's automatic. Don't need to draw any cards. Any HQ or staff team can give the order. Any good order unit. It's got a little 1 there because some other units can be given it as well. A pinned unit can be under certain circumstances. Again, it's got little footnotes on what can, and those are generally at the bottom. Right. Also available to pinned units and some lats with restrictions. There are restrictions on what lats can do. Limited action teams. There we go. Cannot be used by units on a vehicle. Well, we're not worried about vehicles at the present moment. And then it gives me the restrictions or details. Move the unit to an adjacent card and mark it as exposed. If there is a cover marker on that card, you may place the unit under that cover marker. Where we want to go to, there isn't one. Do not mark a unit as exposed if it moves from a trench, bunker, or pillbox cover marker on the first card to one of the markers on the second card, or moves between attached buildings onto urban terrain cards. We haven't got any urban terrain cards in this mission, so that allows us, we'll zoom out, to give an order. Zoom out. Here we go. From the platoon HQ to them to move forward. Now, adjacent, they could move to this card or this card when we're moving them into the palm. And there we go. And that concludes. That's their last order. So that goes up there. I could have saved that point, but we didn't. That flips up. The first platoon's done. So let's see what second platoon gets. So we draw a card. How many command points does he get? He gets 3. And we know the limitations. They're not undercover. We've got no contact with the enemy at the present moment. And he's green. So it'll be 3 commands he's got. And we want to do pretty much the same thing. We need to scout these boards out. So he's going to order third. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't do it. It said mark him as exposed. Okay, so let's do that. Exposed. All right, so what does that actually mean? Notice it's got a -2 on that counter. So if he gets fired at, it's -2 +2 for the train. So as it denotes, he's exposed. So he's vulnerable to fire. Also, why I brought some smoke, just in case I might be able to fire it off. Okay, so we're going to do the same with this here. So pull a lat team. And we want to give them the smoke as well. Pick up a 2, 3, 2, has a smoke. That's one order. Where is he? There he is. Second order, we're going to move into the village. The same place. Exposed. Okay. In they're going. scouting out. I don't want to send a whole squad in there and walk into a minefield, for example. Okay, so he's used 2 orders. One to do the detachment, one to do the move forward. There we go. And that's as far as I want to go with him. So I'm going to save 1 command for next turn. So I'll flip that over. 3rd platoon I can't activate because I can't use at the present moment because they aren't activated. Oh, this is what I'm doing with units that have been activated. I'll be able to move or activate 3rd platoon with initiative. So now we're going to do the EXO. I'll draw a card for him. Ooh, 5. That's good. So that comes down to the 5. Same things. He's green, but we've got no contact, so it will stay at 5. Now, what do I want to do with the EXO? Right, where is he? He's sitting here. I think we're going to send another one of these guys out to investigate this farm. So the EXO is allowed. It said any to do the detachment was allowed by a HQ or any staff member. So he will do the same with 1st platoon, 1st squad. He will detach. Well, that team, there it is. Okay. We will also give them we've only got white phosphorus for this guy. We'll give him some white phosphorus. And we will then send him as a 2nd order out to here. So notice these 2 squads are now down to 2 steps, and I couldn't detach any more from them. So they've gone out there, and then they're marked as exposed. I can see the unit. There we go. That's all I really want. I don't want to send anybody else out there at this present moment in time because we could uncover some minefields, enemy artillery, machine guns, and so forth. We want to see what's out there before we do it. So we did 1 order to activate or detach the fire team, that team, assault team. There we go. 1 to move them, and then we'll save the EXOs for orders from there. And notice that's the maximum save for a green under normal visibility. So if I had 7 commands and only used 2, it would come down to the 3 save for next time. And now the 1st sergeant. Now he is slightly different. Let's draw a card for him. Blimey, he gets 6 to start with, and then looking at this card here, he is a veteran. That's +1. That's 7. Current activity is no contact. That's 8 commands he's got. He knows what he's doing. The maximum of these I can save, max save, is 9. So I could save all of those commands at the present moment. Is there anything we want the sergeant to do? The sergeant is with the 1st platoon here. And the answer is not really. Not at the present moment. We don't want to move on to there. Or do we? To help that assault team. It's risky, but let's do it. Let's do it. He is ordering himself into the farm. Okay, that's his 1st order. I'm going to keep track. Maximum orders he can give. Actually, let me just show you on here. Back on this all-important chart. Okay, the maximum spend normal visibility is 6. So even though he's got 8, he can only spend 6 of them around. This is where I use the little dice. So I've got 6 marked on it. So he's now down to 5. He's got 5 orders left that he could actually do. All right. So the other thing I'd like to stress is you could during any particular impulse, and this is all in the same impulse, you could only do something once. You can't move twice, for example. So, but he's arrived there. They're in the same area. They're looking, and he says to the assault team, right, let's see if we can find some cover. So let's have a look at that action. Okay, so let's go and see. We want to find some cover. Let's have a look at what that action says. So it's under the move actions. So we've got the move actions up. Yes, we have. All right. Let's bring it down here. Right. Attempt to seek cover. Action cost is 1. Then it's got the cover number and plus and minus. Okay, the plus and minuses is dependent on the experience level of the recipient under move firing orders and under the person given the orders if it's a rally order. So we know our units are line, so there's going to be no difference. If it was green, it'd be -1, and if it was veteran, +1. And that refers to that cover potential on the card. We'll look at that in a moment. Any HQ or staff can give the order. Any good order unit on a card that has not reached its cover potential, which we explained earlier, but I'll go through it again, and is not under a cover marker, which they're not. You draw action cards equal to the cover draw number on the unit's card and check for the word cover. If it is present, then the attempt succeeds. Place the unit under a new cover marker and mark it as exposed. If the attempt fails, do nothing. Okay. So we're ordering them to look for cover. Zoom out a bit, move along. Okay, and go back. Right, so we're looking at this card here. So the cover potential is 3. So we'll be drawing 3 cards to see if any of them have the word 3. And once we found it, it is a building, and then we have to determine what kind of building. Okay, from there. And then only one of those buildings is available. So let's have a look at this. So we're looking at here. See, that one's already got the word cover, but we've got to draw 3 cards because they're line. If they'd been green, they'd have only drawn 2. If they'd been veteran, they would have drawn 4. We're looking for the word cover. No. 1, 2, 3. They haven't found any cover. Okay, so that's used up his order. So he's now got 4 orders left. So he's like, nah, we know there's a farm here somewhere. Where is it? No matter. Let's not be totally exposed. Let's fire some smoke. So he orders them to fire smoke, which then gets that, move from there, or we flip it over. And the smoke gives us +2 cover, as they haven't found any cover themselves. And again, that is an order. I'll show the order in a sec. Okay, so let's show what we've just done there. And as I say, we're going into a fair bit of detail here. I won't be doing this every turn, this kind of detail, but anyway. So this is not it's a command action. So let's look at second card on that. State 1. Okay. We are deploying a pyrotechnic. See that? Cost is 1. Draw is automatic, so it's automatic. Any HQ or staff, and any good order unit or unpinned assault team, fire team unit with a pyrotechnic asset, which we are, it's smoke. All right, take the asset from the command display or from under the unit stacked with it, which we've done, and flip it to its deployed side on the same card or adjacent card for aerial devices. Well, it's not an aerial device, it's a bunch of smoke as a unit deploying it. If there is an action associated with the device, which there isn't, but for example, if we were using some of the colored smoke that I did at the beginning or marked as, those were marked as ceasefire, units would ceasefire. Okay, so that's how we deploy the smoke. He has ordered them to do so. They could have done that under their own initiative when we get to that point, but he's ordered them to actually buy that smoke. He then, because he's ordered them, so that takes him down to 3 orders. He then decides to look for the cover himself. He can't order them to do it again, but he can order himself to do it because he hasn't done it as yet. Though I should have marked him. You were screaming at the screen. Yes, I forgot to mark him as exposed because he did move on to there. He's looking for that building himself. So he will be drawing 4 cards 3 for the train, and 1 for himself. So we're looking for the word cover. There it is on the first card drawn. Now, this is an important rule as well to remember. Just because I found cover on that first card, I must draw all the cards that were available to me. This is for just keeping the deck running. So even though I found it on the first card or I found it on the second card, I keep drawing. So I draw the other ones, double cover. Doesn't work that way. And the reshuffle don't count. Contact, and then, so I've drawn the 4 cards that I need to. The reshuffle is not classed as one of them. So whenever you draw the reshuffle, you finished off the action that you were doing, or that card you had to draw, then you do the reshuffle. There we go. And it's done. And he found the cover. Now, what cover did he find? It's a building of some sort. And this is where I go back to this booklet here. So let me bring it to the right page. See that one? Yes, it is. Okay. It's rated on there. All right. So I found cover, and it tells me what cover type we're looking. This was a farm, wasn't it? So depending on that random number will tell me if it's basic cover, a light building with potential, but I can't remember what the star is because the arrows are in the way, but packages and sniper spots are okay. Or it's a strong building of a different type. Yeah, okay. So let me just look at my actual booklet because the little arrows there have covered over what the star actually means. If the package is a sniper or a spotter, place it in the upper story. Okay. So yeah. There is no upper story because we haven't got an upper story symbol on the card. Okay, so we're looking to see. So I have to draw 1 to 8, and it tell me from that chart what kind of cover he's found. Okay, so drawing a card. All right, so we're looking on this one. Card number, we're looking at number 6 on that card because it's the 8. There's maximum 8 numbers. It's the 6th number on there, which was basic cover. So he's found, which in this example actually means that the farmhouse is in ruin. So it's not giving him much benefit. But also, when you search for cover, you move into it. So that actually takes him, if you remember what I was saying, because they're in different locations, effectively, in that card, out of verbal command of that unit in that. They're still in the openish, where he's now gone into the ruins of the farmhouse. Okay, so that takes him 2 remaining orders, and that is all we're going to do with him. So let's bring that down to 2, flip it to show he is finished. And that's all my activations on this point here. So let's zoom back in to where we are. Yeah, right. So that was the Platoon HQ CO Staff Impulse. Okay. We now move into the initiative segment. So the company HQ initiative segment, well, he's already been activated for be in the activation segment. So I noticed the word impulse. Going back on that one there, we were in the Platoon HQ CO Staff Impulse. We are now into the COHQ Impulse. And he's been activated, so we now go to the Platoon HQ Initiative Impulse. Remember I was saying units can't be activated to do the same thing twice in the same impulse, but they could be activated in separate impulses to do the same thing. Select platoon HQ that was not activated in 3.31, which is now our 3rd platoon. Draw an action card and give it the modified number of initiative commands. Save them and do exactly the same thing. But they're going to have less, well, potentially less. So we draw a card for the 3rd platoon, and we're looking at the lower number there, the one that's the 2. So he comes down with his 2. We know he's still green. and we know there's been no contact, so I should have flipped him now. He's now activated. He's got 2 commands available to him. Is there anything I want to do with my 3rd platoon? And the answer is no, they are reserved. So we'll keep them as such, and we will save those 2 command points for potentially next turn. So flip that over. Done. Okay. We then go back to our sequence of play. Zoom back in. So if I didn't activate the staff, they would now go in this impulse. And notice they are separate here. Platoon HQ initiative, staff initiative, whereas when you're doing it in the activation, you could intersperse the platoons with the staff in the same impulse. Here they are different impulses. But we got those staff that haven't activated, so we now go to general initiative. So draw an action card and expend on any units a number of commands equal to the unmodified initiative commands. If this is a single platoon mission, which it's not, they would halve that number down. And general initiative commands cannot be saved. So we come back up here. All right, I draw a card. And I'm getting 2 initiative commands. Okay. Which I can mark as general initiative, and these can't be saved. So what can activate? Well, pretty much anything I want to. So I could get these guys to look for terrain, or I can get them to fire off their smoke. Okay, so there are certain things that under general initiative impulse, you can expend the commands. General initiative commands cannot be saved, as we just discussed. Now, during this phase, units can be given orders or can do initiative under certain limitations. There are some actions that always require HQ staff to be, which is exhort, reconstitute platoon, and so forth. It doesn't mention it on the action cards that we've gotten, but they can do things like search for cover and so on. They do not need to be in contact with the HQ, and they don't need to be that's the main thing. That's being under the command of the HQ. So do we want to fire smoke, or do we want to look to see if we can find the farm building here? I've got 2. We've got these guys under smoke, so they're under cover. I'd like to see if we can preserve. So we're going to try for this team here to look for cover in the village. So we go down. We know we're drawing 4 cards. They are lines, so they don't get any bone for minuses or pluses. So 4 cards, we're looking for the word cover. 1, 2, 3, contact, and 4. No, they didn't find it. And then we'll look for this guy looking for the farm. That's 3. 1, 2, 3. No cover found. Oh dear. And that finishes that impulse. I only had 2. So going back to here, I'll just take that, stick it up there. Okay. Coming now to, that's a bit of a shame they didn't find anything, but there we go. That moves this up to the top now. Let me zoom in. Offensive missions, combat patrols, enemy activity. Well, starting on turn 2, there would be HQ events. It's still turn 1, so nothing there. Enemy activity check segment. Well, there's no enemy on the board yet, so none of this applies. I'll go through that when it starts to do so. Vehicles, we haven't got any. Mutual combat phase. Fire mission updates. We haven't got any fire missions. Potential contact evaluation. This is the one we got to do. We are on 3 cards. For each card with a PC marker, which stands for potential contact, and a friendly unit, draw the number of action cards indicated on the potential contact draw chart based on the PC marker and the current activity level. Okay. What does that mean? Let's have a look. All right. So this is where this card comes in. Where we have. Right. Potential contact draw chart. The type of marker, A, B, and C, as shown on the side there. We've also got no contact, contact, engage, and heavy engage. We're currently under no contact. And it tells us, because we've got C cards, we're drawing 4 cards to see if we kick the word contact. So we first of all have to determine which one of those 3 cards do we determine first. So I determine that by drawing a card and looking under the 3 number. Right, it's card 3. I should have specified how I work this out. I always start from the left as if I was reading a book. So if there was 3 here, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to be doing this one first. Also, if I did have units, I would always start. You must always start with A's before B's before C's. And if you're on different levels, which there won't be in this scenario, so say there was a C up here, I'd have done that one first. That would have been 1, 2, 3, etc. So I know that in my head, but you didn't know that, but I'll now explain that. So we're working out this to see if that is a potential contact, and it told us to draw 4 cards. So, and it'll have the word contact if there's one there. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is somebody there. Came up in the 4th card. So now we've got to determine what that actually is. Okay, so this takes us back to this booklet, and we're looking at a potential contact C. We will draw one of those random numbers, and 1 to 10 will tell us which of these enemy packages we have activated. So let's look at what those packages are. So there's anywhere between 1 and 5. Most like 1 to 2 is package 1. 3 to 6, which is the most likely, is package 2. 7 is a package 3. 8 package 4. 9 to 10 is package 5. What are those packages? So 1 is mines plus sniper. 2 is incoming artillery. 3 is a sniper by itself. 4 is mines and a heavy machine gun nest. And 5 is a machine gun nest. Light machine gun, heavy machine guns, and such forth. And then we will explain it further from there. But we know we found at least one of those. So let's have a look what we've actually found. Moving across here. The draw card. We're looking at numbers 1 to 8. Drawing the card. And it's number, let's bring it up, Alt. We've found number 1. Number 1 was, I'm going to use the book. I'm not going to keep going back and forth across. I just showed you where it was on there. The number 1 is mines plus sniper in basic cover on R1 or 2. Okay, so it tells me it's potentially a sniper. So it's mines, definitely, and then plus sniper in basic 1, 2 cover. So we'll have to look to see if we get a sniper as well. It's another draw. If it's a 1 on the card in the 1 and 2 spot, we've also got a sniper. So we draw a card. 2. There wasn't a sniper. 1 I defined as a sniper. So it's just a minefield on that card. Oh, just a minefield, he says. Right. So I need to get a mine counter to show we walked into a minefield. Boom. Right. So that's in there. So what happens in the minefield? Well, we have to determine. It says mines, draw 3. So I've got to draw 3 cards to see if the minefield goes off. Okay, so to determine if, now I've got to draw 3 cards, and if ever any one of them has the burst symbol, my unit is attacked by that mines. So first card, no. Second card, unfortunately, yes. Third card, remember I've got to draw them all. So I will be attacked by that minefield. So I then flip that over and go boom. Okay. Now, minefields attack if I had another unit, it will attack all the units that were moved in there this turn. If anyone moves within that card or onto that card on future turns, they have to draw 3 cards to see if they get through it. If I move off that card, they're fine. They don't get attacked again. So, but they will be attacked, and we come to the attack a bit later. That potential contact marker is now gone, but I'm going to move it down to here, and I'll explain why soon. Okay, so now we've still got two potential markers to go for, but the question is, are we now in contact with the enemy? So let's have a look on this card. Activity level, no contact, no volume of fire or PDF markers on map, and no enemy unit spotted. So no volume of fire markers on map. There is a volume of fire marker because the mines have gone off. Let me double check that one. Yeah, just want to double check that that is correct. So they have produced a volume of fire. So my guys are hearing the mines go off, and suddenly that no contact becomes contact. Okay. One friendly, so let's bring that card up again. Contact is one friendly occupied or enemy occupied card is under a VOF marker, volume of fire marker, which is because we've got the mines, or at least one spotted enemies on the map. That doesn't apply. So we are in contact. So that means for the next C marker, instead of drawing 4 cards, we'll only draw 3. If you'll see the contact and the C, change it to a 3. And that's what we have to do next, determine which of the 2 cards to draw for. We're looking at the 2 number, and it's card number 1, which, using my always example, is this card, always from the left to the right. So we're determining, does this reveal anything? Okay. So draw a card. I'm drawing 3 rather than 4 now. 1, 2. Darn it, more contact. So let's determine what that contact is. We've got the package of 10. Tells me to look at what number 8 is. So I'm going to go back to that little booklet at this point. Go in here and zoom up. And it tells me, looking at number 8 here, is package number 4. What is package 4? Mines and heavy machine gun nest. Mines and heavy machine gun with 8 ammo in foxholes. Place a PDF or volume of fire? Yes. Is it spotted? Yes. Mines on triggering card. Heavy machine gun at maximum line of sight stroke range. Okay, so let's go and set that up. Right. But first of all, blimey, this is quite a heavy contact in. First, we have a minefield. That is there. Found. That's not going to be hindered by the smoke. And then a heavy machine gun. I'm going to draw the cards and set up and explain what I've done. Okay, so I've drawn out the heavy machine gun and its ammo. It's got 8 ammo and it's in a foxhole. I've also determined that it's to the front, so it's somewhere along this road. Now, bring up the counter here. You can see there's bits of information on this heavy machine gun team. That A with that arrow means he can fire overhead and do something called grazing fire. And the V tells me its range. There is point blank, which is P. Then there is C for close, L for long, and V for very long. Point blank is on the same card. Close is adjacent card. Long is 1 card further, and very long is 1 card further than that. And it tells me to place this team within long line of sight and at maximum range. So that would be close. That would be long. Is a potential for it to be over here. Now I have to draw a terrain card because if you draw a hill, it would be able to see there, and that would be a legitimate placement. If it's not a hill that I draw here, whatever I draw stays, but it will be placed in this card because it can't see from this card to this card because that's a solid green and that's a solid green. So at the present moment, if it's not a hill there, it's being deployed on the gully here. But if that is a hill, then it will be deployed on the hill. So let's see what terrain card we draw. For that position, now, let's flip it. it's not a hill. So, but that stays now. That's, let me just actually make sure that stays. Toggle it to lock it. There we go, that card's now locked. So this here are in the adjacent card. Okay, they're in a foxhole. Let's put them right there in the foxhole. Some potential contact out there. Heavy machine gun. And he's got 8 ammo. So it's ammo being trapped. He then is also firing on there. It did say it's right. So I placed down what's called a PDF. Okay. Which is showing that he's firing along that line there. So I will just flip that, turn that. Going into adjacent card. And that will put a volume of fire onto this card, which is, I'm going to upgrade that to what it actually is, which is automatic fire. It's another -1 on that card. So that I'm being hit by the minefield. Oh, we haven't drawn the 3 cards for the minefield yet, have we? No. But heavy machine gun fire is firing into that. So let's draw for this minefield. And I hope we don't get 3 explosions. Draw a card or an explode. Right, got the shuffle card, but we don't shuffle until we finish what we're doing. 1, 2. Right, the minefield didn't go off. That's fortunate. That's very fortunate. Okay, now do I do... No, I'll just do that once. I now reshuffle the deck. Boom, boom, boom. And we got away with that from the minefield point of view. But we have now got the heavy machine gun firing in. And we'll go through how that all works and such forth when we get that far. We've still got 1 C to draw for. But now we look at this card again. Are we engaged? 2 or more occupied cards are under volume of fire markers. Yes. So we're now engaged. We're no longer under contact. We are engaged. So I change that now. And this will vary and modify as things happen. We are now engaged. To be heavily engaged, we must actually be on a card with an enemy unit. So, and the engage changes the C draw from a 3 down to now 2. So let's see if we get cover. No further contact. If we've got a 3rd one now, I'd have gone, that's extremely unlucky. But it's gone, removed from the board, as in there was nothing activated on that particular counter. And we'll put those there. Okay. Right. So that's all the potential. We didn't go into this card, so we don't examine that. That's everything done at present. Let's move down here. By the way, if that mines had gone off, it would have attacked both units in that area. Let's go down to the sequence of play. We're nearly done. Nearly there. Right. So we've done, if a card states contact with the enemy has been made, determine the enemy package and placement, place any applicable volume of fires. PDF, what does PDF stand for? Potential, can't remember. I'll look it up when I'm finished. Pinned recovery segment, no. We now go to combat effects segment. Do not adjust volume of fires and PDF until we get to the cleanup phase. What that's saying is everything is happening simultaneously during this phase. For each infantry unit on a card with a volume of fire marker, resolve any flamethrower attacks, determine the NCM, we'll come to what that means, draw an action card to determine if the fire is effective. If a unit is hit, draw another action card to determine the hit's effects based on the unit's experience level, and then update levels units exerting basic volume of fire. Right, there's a lot of stuff happening there. Let's go through that in a little bit more detail. Okay, so we've only got 1 or 2 cards that's affecting. And I'm doing from left to right again. This phase, it doesn't matter because anything that happens here will not affect there anyway, and nothing is updated until all cards are where there is potential fire are resolved. The other thing, my assault team, let's bring him up. Okay, notice he's got A. So he's got the same kind of fire as that German, which is automatic weapons, but mine only affect P, which is the card he's actually on. So that's why we're not firing back here, because we haven't got anyone on this card that can fire back. So, right. So now we've got to determine the effect of this fire that's coming into this card. We look at the volume of fire marker, which says that -1. The little +2 there, I believe, when using vehicles and so forth, but we're not. So it's a -1. Remember, low is more effective. It's -1. Then you get the +2 for the terrain, so it's now net +1. Affecting the assault team, he's also exposed. So +1 becomes again -1, -2. So we could do all the minuses. -1, -2 is -3. Okay. And then he's got +2, plus another 2 for the smoke, +4. So the net is +1. Okay. And then I look on here and I'm looking at the +1 column, which says, not in detail, +1 is a miss. Woo. Okay. Then we look at my leader, my sergeant, +2 for the card, +2 for the smoke, +4, +1 for the extra cover he's on, +5, -1 for the automatic, -2 for exposed, -3. So he's looking at the +2. Draws a card, +2 is also a miss. Ooh. Right, so and that's the only effects of fire on that card. Moving to this card. Now this could be potentially nasty. Okay. -4 for the mines. And I'm not sure if I get cover there. I better double check. Mines do get the terrain cover at least. Okay. But not visibility modifiers. So smoke would have had no effect on the minefield. Right, so it's attacking with a -4. I'm exposed. It's another -2. -6. Running into an area with a minefield is not particularly healthy for you. +2, we might be able to dive behind a brick wall or something like that. But anyway, so his net is -4, -6, +2 is still -4, which is as low as the actual cards go. So, draw a card. -4 is hit. What you'd expect when you. But let's see the effect. Draw a card. We're looking down here. They're a line unit. It is an F. That is actually pretty good for us. F means he's changed to a fire team rather than assault team. So he's dropped a quality. Fire team green. There we go. But he's not. And if you are hit, you are also pinned. We still carry the smoke. Let's put the pin down there. Put that there. That was actually pretty fortunate. The only other thing I didn't do is use up his ammo. Yeah, he's now at 7. Okay, as he brought that fire in, which we were fortunate with. Okay, so PDF is prime direction of fire. VOF is volume of fire. And the NCM that it was referring to is the net combat modifier, which is where we work out what number we're looking at on here. Right, so that's the abbreviations out of the way. Go back to the sequence of play. Save it. Right. Okay. So we've done the 2 cards we had action on. So we're finished here. We go up to the cleanup phase. So we remove pyrotechnics. That smoke bars will go. Illumination, exposed markers will go. Moved or fired, etc. on vehicles. So various things will disappear. Evacuate casualties. We haven't got any. Enemy firing at cards without valid targets, so we'll shift their fire and reset mine markers. So I could do all that individually, but there is a little things there. Clean up. Are you sure you want to clean up? Yes. And that, if you'll see, is put the mines back to drawing 3 cards, remove the exposed marker, the pin stays, of course, because I've got to array that. And the same here. The exposed markers are gone. So the sergeant's under the cover. He's sitting out in the open. And that is effectively the end of the turn. Okay, so I'm going to end this and come back to me. That's okay with you guys? That was longer than I anticipated, but there we go. We've gone through the basics of how to set up the mission, and we've done the first turn. In the next videos, I'm going to try and do one, maybe two, possibly even three, if not much happens, turns. We will see. I don't want to be anywhere near the length of this one. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I haven't made too many mistakes, if I made any at all, hopefully. If you can hit the like button, because that was quite a lot of work, and if you're still here, please hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it and you haven't subscribed already, please do so. That all helps the channel. And any comments, especially ones that point out things I could have done better, things I didn't do quite right, and so on. As we move forward, I will not be going as much into detail on the turn sequence. I will say what I'm doing. If you've got the turn sequence, great. But I'll explain the steps that I'm going through and why, because I don't want to keep going back and forward all the time and such forth. I'll be using my trusty dice to mark off the command points and then go into the display to mark off the completed, not going back and forth in individual one. But I will show all the card draws. I really like the combat system in this. I think it works very well, and it also doesn't use these. I like anything that doesn't use these for combat. So yeah, that is about it. Until next time, play games, have fun, and if you've got this on the shelf, get it off, play it. If you haven't got it, I would advise you, if you're into solitaire games, get it, because the amount of decisions you've got to make are phenomenal. And once you know how to play it, the narrative that is going through your head is spectacular as well. So goodbye, internet.